Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanallah, guys, we've got a significant development, more specifically in Istanbul, and this is off the back and off the heels of the exchange and the rhetoric that's been exchanged through the New Zealand attacks, and the underlining current and the tone of the Crusaders against, I guess, the Ottomans, from the response and the antithesis to that attack, which was the one that happened in Europe by the Turkish citizen in the tramway. Now, both, we've been vehemently clear about that they were both psyops, both controlled dialectics, both manufactured by the Shiatine, and on both sides, what you've got now is two significant representations of each faith. One is the Ottomans, the Turkish, and who are trying to maybe take or be stewards of the Muslim Ummah in terms of speaking out about haq, but I believe that that's a falsehood, subhanallah, a very thin veneer, which unfortunately many of our beloved scholars are unable to see through. And then you've got on the other side the Christian faithful, and the rhetoric and the underlining tones of nostalgia loaded into the Crusaders and the Crusades. We said that this dialectic will continue, and this is something that I think is going to ultimately result in the Muslims of Turkey and the Sham being led into a war with Israel, and then the Muslim world losing Istanbul, Constantinople through the back door to the Christians of Europe. I mean, that would be the representation, not necessarily, I don't mean specifically the Christians, okay? I mean the stewards that are controlling the dialectic, which, as far as I'm concerned, all leadership from globally who are significant in their role are wittingly or unwittingly playing part in this dialectic, subhanallah, most of which are wittingly playing part. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Now, what concerns me is what's being said by Erdogan about Hagia Sofia Masjid. Well, we call it mosque, it's not a mosque. Okay, it quite rightfully belongs to the Christian faithful. And there's only one scholar that we are aware of who has been vocal openly and publicly about this stain on the Muslim Ummah, which is Sheikh Imran Hussein Damat Barakatuhum, who has been very vocal about this issue, and quite rightly so. It is a huge stain on the Muslim Ummah. We never had any right to occupy it or take it from our Christian brothers and sisters in humanity. And it seems that that rhetoric is being exchanged where Erdogan is talking about converting it from a museum to officially a mosque. Subhanallah. This again lends credence, and this is quite a huge issue for those of you who aren't who don't appreciate the gravity of it. It's a massive issue, and it should be not just to the Christians, but it should be to the Muslims of the world, subhanallah, those on haq. And this is when I question the more specifically, because this is more local to me, are the scholars of the UK. Where are those 400 signatories who openly countersigned a letter, an open letter, at their disgust at this attack, which they clearly blamed on the white supremacists, falling for this ridiculous psyop and not being able to discern through it and appreciate that it was perpetrated by the Shiatine to lull the Muslims into the dialectic so that they would themselves, just like we have everywhere else, subhanAllah, become the means through which we bring about the synthesis for them without them having to lift a finger. And that was to increase this division, an outcry for additional security, CCTV, and outside our mosques, polarizing us further, and then removing guns, and again, maybe increasing that dialogue of guns being in the hands of the masses, because they need to remove them simply because they don't want you to be able to use them when they do actually pull off what we have claimed to be a restructuring of the globe into a world order. And when it becomes evidently clear that this is what's happening, and martial laws being enacted in countries and cities across the globe, and the masses start to kind of maybe realize what's been done to them, subhanAllah, they don't want the same masses to be able to regroup, organize, and then maybe fight back, subhanAllah. So removing guns from the hands of the average Joe Blog is an important measure of that particular agenda. Now, this is huge. I mean, the Islamic world, the scholarship of the subcontinent even, need to speak out about this, that this is not being done in our name. We've only got to look at the example of Umar Farooq radiallahu anhu, where he refused to pray his salah in the Church of Nativity. I believe that's the church in Israel and Palestine, where he refused to pray inside it simply because he was intimately aware that others that would precede him would want to then mimic him, copy him, and that would result in an injustice being done to the Christians simply because we would then occupy their church. What we have done is conquered the lands of Turkey, and then not only occupied a church, but then converted it into a museum and taken it out of the hands of the Christians. This is a huge stain on Islam, a huge stain. This is not what our beloved Prophet ﷺ taught us. And Erdogan, where are the Muftiyan Ikram that advise him? Right? Where is that close counsel that speaks to this guy? Are they not on haqq? Can they not advise this individual that what you are doing is wrong? Or is he actually doing it in order to add fuel and douse fuel to the fire, that's the sectarian fire that's being fueled right now in the dialectic, deliberately ahead of Ezekiel 38 and 39 manufactured? Please open your eyes. Jazakallahu khairan wa ahsanul jaza for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.